the reason that we decided to do this was we have so many great conversations that go so deep. And every single time we have them, we're like, oh, we should have recorded it. So what we decided to do was give you an insight to our conversations, by opening with a great topic of authenticity, which is so commonly communicated, but for so many of us, we resist going there. While I was struggling with this, the previous challenge of really accepting myself and surrendering to my authenticity, I saw there's this amazing artist, and you could see it in the background, and he made this phenomenal piece of art that I just purchased, and it says, "Stop resisting this." And I
I
felt,
wish it was so easy to do.
well, so that's really that. So I just felt like I'd share that, and I feel like that's such a great entrance to this conversation, because I think we all know what authenticity feels like. We just struggle with the resistance.
So many things on that topic are just racing through my brain. One is I feel like I'm an onion. I think we all are. And as much as we think we're authentic, there's always another layer to unwrap and get even more real with yourself and others. Because like people come over to me like, oh my God, Esther, you're so calm. You're so real. And meanwhile, they don't know that I have like a war of anxiety happening inside of me. And outside, I'm like this flowy thing. And there's still more that I'm not sharing with myself and with other people, So that's that. And then also to just the resistance, like I feel that with so many things. But like right now, the thing that comes up is meditation. I don't have like real heavy resistance with meditation. And I'm just curious about it. Like I'm not fighting it. So that's good. I'm just curious and hope that it opens up or softens, or I see what is the resistance, because I'm blind to it for some reason.
Really? If you would go there, what would be on the other side of that, let's say, resistance? What do you feel like you either are afraid to face or accept, we would say?
Hmm. I feel accept probably because like I feel like however my life was going till now, I'm holding on to a pattern. And if I get to the other side, letting go of that pattern or that way of doing things, I'm gonna lose it. For some reason, it feels like a grieving to a past self. But it must be really big because this resistance is going on for years, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. But
And
when I do sit down and meditate with you, it's magical. Like, why am I resisting magic?
I feel like for myself in that experience, a lot of times that resistance comes from a place where I know that finally I will get what I desire, my deepest desire. And back to the loop of authenticity, I feel like I think with desire, there comes the concept of deserving, depending also on how each of us grew up. Like if we felt like we needed to deserve something, either from school or from home. So sometimes when just accepting it feels so easy that it feels like there's no work towards it, or I didn't deserve something, or I didn't get
Earn
punished.
it.
I didn't
You
get
didn't.
punished or consequenced, or there wasn't pain involved. And I
Right.
think that's kind of where the most authentic self, I feel like, is the softest and the easiest version of who we are. And living in a world where everyone plays hard to get or creates a facade, there's like this kind of concept of, I'm going to show you what I want you to think, who I want you to think I am, rather than you see me for me. And again,
Mhm.
that's also complex, but that's my thought on that.
Wow. That is very complex, and it definitely feels very, very true. It's true. Like we feel like we need to earn everything, anything good, right? Success, love. We need to do all this like effort and work and, pain and change. And something so easy doesn't seem, maybe we don't trust it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Like,
a struggle with just that. And I think that because I talk about this a lot, where we think that hard work will get us there, and hard work will get us the commitment, let's say like this, the commitment to effort, to certain efforts in certain areas will get you certain results. But when we arrive at our results, the results is the acceptance. It's like digestion, and it's like if you eat a meal, you have to create space to digest the food. Or if you're creating I always say this, let's say even with interior design, which I think is like the misconception. When we talk about, even with my book, I wrote a book called Interior Designer. I'm trying to see if I have it around. Okay, I'm going to bring it out next time.
okay.
But one of the most crucial components of interior design is a well-designed space communicates whatever's supposed to be communicated in the space. That means if it's a welcoming environment, you'll feel welcome in that space. If it's a living room, you should be able to sit on a couch. If it's a dining room, you should be able to eat in that room. And a lot of people create these spaces that are almost like imagery of like, look but don't touch, or don't engage. Talking Middle Eastern culture, a lot of people can relate to this with immigrant grandparents, where they'd have this like this living room where nobody was allowed to actually sit on the couches. So bringing that concept to interior design and our own emotional space, like some people I feel like, even again, and this is always a work in progress, where we're constantly like, yeah, I'm open and I'm loving and I'm transparent, and but it's more of like, look, don't touch, in the sense of like, or don't engage. Let's just say it that way. Look, but don't engage. Which is we're not creating a welcoming environment for others. In the sense that we're not making them feel welcome in our environments. People are feeling more uncomfortable. And when that happens, it's usually a reflection of us ourselves personally not feeling welcome in our own environment, where we created an environment where our homes even feel hostile. And there's, even in our own bodies, we feel like a prison. And yeah, so that's kind of, I think that,
Wow.
yeah.
That almost sounds like, what meditation is all about. It's like sort of like closing your eyes, looking inward, right? Like really seeing the true self and all the stuff that we don't really like look at, because we're always looking outward on social media, and how all the trends and what we should be looking like and what we should be saying. And I think that also, self-care and also authenticity became a fad in that way. So like it became in style to be vulnerable. But that vulnerability might not be coming from an authentic place. It might be coming from that living room with the plastic on the couches.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
So
think
so
I think being an empath is also can go under that category nowadays, because I feel like it's way too overused.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
even
And
I
then
feel like even the way it's communicated, where people are like, I'm an empath, and I'm like, okay, that's about you, not about anybody else.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, like I once had this person I looked at him like a very, very not nice person. And I told him, because he asked me why I don't like him. And I said, so he's like, because you're not nice. And he said, I'm a very nice person. And then he drove off really quickly, almost drove over my toes,
Oh
you
no.
know? So, like, that's not a nice person that says he's a nice person and doesn't show it. Like, there's also seeing if the words match the actions. And then you can really gauge if the person is real or not, you know?
I feel
And
I
I
feel
asked,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I feel like that also, for so many of us, we value words and not actions or sensations, like noticing like, oh, am I supposed to like this person, or am I supposed to trust this person because of the way they portray themselves, either in how they're presenting themselves, like again, back to like the couch with the plastic, and then being like, oh, but there is no room for conversation, negotiation, commitment,
Right.
where it might look good. And I feel like that has become as you said, a trend
Yeah.
where it's so much about how it looks rather than how it makes you feel. And when we kind of step into our own authenticity or trust our own authenticity, I think what we start to do is we start to value our own opinion. When we're
Mm.
around healthy people, or healthy personalities, I would say what they do is they create room for your voice, for your thought process.
Yeah.
Theirs doesn't take over. Um, they don't kind of make you feel insecure in a way where you're like, am I supposed to be feeling or thinking this way? Because I find that a lot. Like, I mean, as I was going through my healing journey, I'd get so intimidated by certain personalities. And then when I started meeting healthier people, as in it met kind of where I was in the journey, it those people, just like you, created room for me to just be myself. Like, I
Mhm.
didn't need to be anything I wasn't. I didn't need to apologize for it either. I could just be myself, and I didn't have to worry about like even how it made you feel. Like it
Mm.
when you're with, and I think it works both ways. I'm saying with
Yeah.
with our relationship, which is again, it's always a work in progress. But I feel like when you start to know yourself better, I'm saying me, when I started to know myself better, and then when I'm in the presence of somebody like you, it created this environment where I was like, I could just really relax into my space, and it becomes easy. It becomes really easy to be myself.
Right. And I think that comes from just some life experience, like dropping judgments, because, like I remember at one point I would look at divorced people like crazy people. Like I'm gonna know I'm gonna be in a great marriage where it's gonna be a loving partnership, and I would never get divorced because I really think marriage is sacred. I'm divorced twice now. I cannot say that anymore because it's just now I know, like, whatever I judged and it happened, it conditioned me, it softened me, it made me the person I am. And I don't want to be that judgmental person anymore. And I think that you could probably say the same. Life has really kicked us in our butts and just made us who we are. And now we know who we are more. We're not finished learning until, we hit the hay. But like yeah, I feel the same way about you. And I think that we see the world and ourselves very similar, but
Yeah.
that's also because we did a lot of the work and we're still doing the work.
And I think like when people relate to, let's say, even divorce, me myself being divorced once, a lot of it relates to like we feel like there's a lot of failure. Either we failed or the world failed us. Um, what I came to realize was that there was not enough education or support, which I had to surrender to. But I think the thing that is most important to acknowledge in that journey is knowing that yes, marriage is sacred, but the marriage to yourself, the commitment to being authentic in yourself and really feeling like something isn't working. There's this misconception. I think people are always like, oh, people are so lazy nowadays. They just get divorced like it's like disposable plastic plates, and they just throw it in the garbage. And I feel like there's a real misconception there where when you're with the right person, yes, there is work. There's work that is put in, and it's hard. It's never not hard, but there's a certain kind of frequency that you're able to come to, that you
Mhm.
are at peace with yourself, and that person that you're with and you also are bringing the best out of each other. And this really works with um with us personally, but also with I'm saying with our relationship with ourself as well. Like if we're anxious, if there's a lot going on there, it's that we're not at peace with ourselves. And
Mhm.
for so many of us, I feel like our relationships, first of all, a lot of us get married really young, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. But the thing is that we're growing. We're growing at the same time and figuring ourselves out at an extremely young age while building a family,
Mhm.
which is like there's a couple things that we're working at. And if we're not good at multitasking, we could struggle. And some of those components could, the bottom could fall out. And
Right.
it usually the whole bottom doesn't fall out. There are certain things we all in our each of our situations that we come out winning, if it's a better self, if it's enlightened, if it's whatever it is, successful in a certain area.
Yeah.
But I think that nowadays there's a lot more like knowledge and information that's accessible to understanding how to navigate those internal pieces of being able to really accept yourself and be in that space where you can communicate, because it's not only words. Even for myself, I felt like I was like such a good communicator, but then I realized that that authentic part of I was communicating, but a lot of what I was communicating was communicating something the other person wanted to hear, rather
Mm.
than, and when I said something about myself, we struggled with that being accepted or
Right.
digested.
There is a lot of stuff, tools out there that we could, look for and find and incorporate. Um, but then I think that like with therapy and things like that, finding a good therapist is not so easy sometimes. And then just hearing what other people are telling us to do, I think that everyone is so custom in their own way. I think there's like a way to reach certain, levels of success and whatever they're looking for in like self-awareness and help or finances or relationships. I feel like everyone is so individual that I don't think anyone could be told what is the way. And I think that finding yourself first is so important before reaching out for outside help, because I've had experiences also where my therapist gave me ideas and I took them, at face value, like he knows me, but it did more harm than good. And we were talking about that, like different modalities out there that can actually be more hurtful um, than helpful. And I find there is a way of detecting what feels right and what doesn't. For me, it's like bodily um like feelings and sensations. So if I hear something that feels like the right thing for me to do, I'll feel it in, let's say, my heart will like start beating, or I'll have chills, or my body temperature will change. Sometimes I'll get tears because it touched like a heartstring that's like saying, yes, that sounds right for me, things like that. And just like, but that's something that you need to really tap into your body or be connected to feel or notice. Because, there's sometimes signs out there that we just pass by. We're always like, God, send me a sign. I don't know which way to go. And there's tons of signs. We're just not seeing it because we're not connected.
Yeah. But I think you just touched on a really, really important point where so many people go out there and again, we all do this, where we go out there looking for help, but we're not incorporating our body. We're not listening to, we're resisting that internal compass. We're resisting our own voice.
Yeah.
And in healing, there's this deep need to heal, and I feel like it almost overrides the work itself sometimes, where we're like, we have to understand that to heal, going back to like the beginning of this, where I think this brings it full circle, is by taking that time to find quiet in your own life and meditate and sit quietly with yourself, self-regulate, right? Really learn about your own rhythm, about what gets to you,
Yeah.
valuing your own opinion, valuing your value,
Yeah.
valuing your own authenticity, trusting that there are those inner values that are there. And
Mm.
underneath many layers, as you said, like an onion. It's like we got to peel away
Yeah.
when we sit with ourselves. And I think it comes to that acceptance. The authenticity bleeds through naturally, but then when you go out there into the world and then you begin your healing, when you're, whatever, if it's a team of people that you work with or even the books you read, what you're able to do is you're bouncing it off your own like integrity, like your own. Otherwise, you're reading this stuff and there's nothing to apply it to.
Mm-hmm.
You just have a lot of talking points, but there's nothing to bounce it off of. So I always say that's the concept of like, it's the concept of midos. When we talk about midos is the concept of measuring. Avodas midos, when we talk about like characteristics, when we sit and meditate, what we're doing is we're kind of learning about our boundaries and our measures. Like, how does a trigger feel outside of, a flare up in itself or outside of the world on its own? And the example I gave in class was, if you think about like making a cake, some people can eyeball it, but usually people that eyeball it started with measurements. That's why there's so many recipe books out there, because people want measurements. And when we understand the value of measuring in other places in our life, we understand that we have to learn the measurements, the distance between us and our experiences, the closeness of us and our failures or our successes or our pain, the different dimensions. And just like with sugars and salts, there are many types. Some we're sensitive to, some we're more attracted to, some we're addicted to. Knowing those, understanding those measurements, it's not something somebody else can tell you, right?
Right.
Like the recipe book, the recipe can be there, but unless you're gonna go out there, buy the ingredients and sit and make that cake, it's not going to happen for you.
Right.
So I
Right.
feel like for me, that's kind of the essence of meditation, is really taking that time to get to know. You got to get to know yourself, and there's somebody to like. There really is somebody there to like. And even if you don't believe it, I meet so many people that don't have confidence in themselves, and they've done so much work. And the sadness that comes over me from seeing this person that thinks they're broken with so much potential within them and so much love, it hurts. It breaks my heart.
I love you too, Esther.
But not, I'm saying like other
I
people, not
know.
you.
I know.
So that's my rant. That's my rant. Any closing statements for you? Any last thoughts as we wrap
Yeah.
this?
I have a cute little story that happened to me on Shabbos. I was at an upstate festival, and there was just so many people. The energy was beautiful, but a lot. And so I went to a quiet space. There's a little swing and a slide with like a little treehouse thing. So I climbed up. The treehouse thing sat there, and it has walls, so like no one's able to see me. And I journaled a little bit, and my intention was to find boundaries within myself, even from like good things, just like to have a little bit of grounding, and get back into my body. And all of a sudden, there was a car alarm. There was kids screaming in the background, and I'm like, seriously, like I need to have a few minutes to find myself and my boundaries. And then the cutest little thing happened. These two kids started fighting over a swing right in front of me. They couldn't see me, and the girl was telling the boy, "Stop following me. I need space." And the boy, and I just watched the whole thing happen. And then all of a sudden, they climbed up the steps, and then they was trying to climb over me to get to the slide. So I spoke to them a few minutes, and I was like telling the boy, like, "Why don't you ask the girl if she wants to play with you? Don't just follow her around." And so he asked her, and she said, "No, I don't want to play with you." So then I told her, "Why don't you say in a nice way, right now I need space, and maybe later I'll play with you." And of course she's like, "No, I don't like him," and she ran away. But that was such a good lesson for me. Like, just ask, or just declare and create your boundaries and wait for them to happen.